Thank you for joining me for another episode of A White Woman in Distress. This podcast is dedicated to raising awareness for missing children, teens, and adults who have vanished under heartbreaking circumstances. My mission is simple: to keep their stories alive and to help bring them back to their families. In a world where media coverage isn't always equal, it's vital to recognize that many cases go overlooked. Marginalized groups, including Indigenous people, people of color, the LGBTQ+ community, runaway teens, and homeless individuals. They often face systematic barriers leading to underinvestigation and inadequate attention. These groups deserve to have their stories heard just as loudly, whether it's the jurisdictional complexities affecting Indigenous women and girls, the media bias towards missing people of color, or the stigmas facing runaway teens and those living on the streets. These cases remind us that real change is needed. Grassroots efforts, community engagement, and legislative advocacy are essential in turning the tide. You don't have to be on the front lines to make a difference. Even small actions like sharing information or providing anonymous tips can play a crucial role in bringing loved ones home. Every family deserves answers, and every missing person deserves to be found. Before we dive into today's story, please be aware that content may include themes of violence, sexual assault, or other distressing topics. Listener discretion is advised. Today, we'll be discussing a case that has left a family searching for answers for over a year. The mysterious disappearance of 34-year-old Emily Victoria Benjamin from Culpeper, Virginia. Emily went missing in September of 2022, and despite the efforts of her family and law enforcement, there have been few answers. This case is absolutely heartbreaking, and it's very perplexing. And today, we'll look at Emily's life, the events leading up to her disappearance, and the investigation that continues to this day. Before we get into the details of her disappearance, let's take a moment to talk about who Emily was, because I think that it's important that we know what they were like before they went missing. Emily Victoria Benjamin, often called Emmy, Miss M, or Queen by her loved ones, was a 34-year-old black woman. She was 5'4" and weighed around 220 pounds. She had brown hair, brown eyes, and was known to wear black framed glasses. A distinguishing characteristic was a birthmark on her left leg. Emily was so much more than just the details of her physical appearance. She was also described as a kind, warm-hearted, caring person. She had a unique ability to draw people to her with her loving nature, and her family cherished her deeply, which is understanding because any family that is loving, kind, and just raises decent human beings, it's so sad when something does happen to them because they don't deserve it. And nobody deserves it. However, like many, she had her struggles. Emily required medication for an unspecified condition, which her family believes may be a crucial factor in her disappearance. And I'm not sure what it was needed for. They didn't say in any of the articles or any of the pages that I did research on, but she required medication. The fact that she hasn't picked it up or she doesn't have a way to get more of it is very concerning to me, because that just shows that she knew that she needed this medicine, but it's one of those things where that's really suspicious, because you know that they usually take it, they usually pick it up, they usually go through the motions, and it's weird that she hasn't come forward to get this medication. Her family's concern grew, knowing that without her medication, her health could be at risk. The fact that she's been missing for over a year with no access to her medication has added to the fear surrounding her well-being, which this is just an opinion and this is just a guess, but I'm assuming that it's for some kind of mental health issue, which is understandable because we all have some kind of mental health issue. So let's walk through the key moments leading up to Emily's disappearance. Okay, so here's the timeline. September 2nd, 2022, around 2 a.m., law enforcement conducted a welfare check on Emily at her home in Culpeper, Virginia. The exact reasons for this check are unclear, but it was likely requested by someone close to Emily, possibly a family member who had concern about her well-being. When police spoke to Emily during the check, she told them that she was on a road trip and planned to return home in 2 weeks. At the time, she was driving a white 2021 Toyota Corolla with the Virginia license plate UYH6004. This was the last confirmed sighting of Emily, and after this interaction, she vanished. September 20th, 2022, the car is found nearly 3 weeks later, and it was discovered abandoned in the parking lot of an AutoZone store in Sterling, Virginia, it's about 70 miles from her home in Culpeper. The vehicle was left unlocked, with no signs of Emily nearby. It was eventually towed to her mother's house, but there was no significant clues found inside the car that could explain what had happened to her. The discovery of the car raised more questions than it answered. Sterling, Virginia is located just right outside of Washington, D.C., making it a really busy area, and if you haven't driven around D.C., the traffic up here is wild. But why did her car up so far from home? Like, how did it get there? Why was there no sign of her, right? Like, why was it abandoned in a commercial parking lot? There was no indication that the car had been involved in an accident or that it had even broken down. The car itself offered no answers to the many questions swirling around her disappearance. I want to know if, like, they checked the AutoZone cameras or if they checked any other cameras in the area to see when the car was left there, because it was at AutoZone, and I know that most places you can't leave your car for more than 24 hours without someone looking into it to, call the cops or check it out and see what's going on. So I want to know if they checked the surveillance footage at the AutoZone or surrounding businesses, but I couldn't find any articles of that. I'm sure they did, but they can't release anything. And then there's so many questions that are swirling around her disappearance. The investigation into Emily's disappearance remains ongoing, but frustratingly stagnant. After the car was found, law enforcement, including the Culpeper Police Department, stated there was no immediate evidence to suggest foul play. Despite this, Emily's family remained deeply concerned, as the circumstances of her disappearance are highly unusual. Which, I mean, if you're part of a loving, caring family, you don't necessarily just disappear. You don't talk to them daily, you don't hang out with them all the time, and then all of a sudden you just poof, gone. Investigators have asked the public for help, hoping that someone might have seen Emily or her car in the days leading up to or after her disappearance. But despite these public appeals, no significant leads have emerged. With so little evidence to go on, the case has essentially just gone cold, leaving her family to continue searching for answers without the support of new investigative developments. One of the most perplexing aspects of the case is the fact that Emily was separated from her car. As her family has pointed out, her car was her primary mode of transportation, and for her to just leave it behind in Sterling is extremely odd. This has led to speculation about whether she left voluntarily or under duress. With so few answers, Emily's case has given rise to various theories. So now I'm going to talk about the theories that have risen since her disappearance. So the first theory is that, did Emily leave on her own? There's that theory, which maybe she just left voluntarily. During the welfare check on September 2nd, she told police she was on a road trip and that she would return in 2 weeks. Could Emily have decided to extend her trip or simply not return home? While this theory is possible, it raises some troubling questions. Why would she just abandon her car in Sterling, a town she had no known connections to? And then why, in the years since her disappearance, has she made no contact with her family? The second theory is that Emily encountered car trouble, prompting her to leave her vehicle behind in the AutoZone parking lot. AutoZone is a store that specializes in automotive parts and supplies, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that she stopped there because of a mechanical issue. However, there were no obvious signs of damage to the vehicle, and there's no record of her seeking assistance at the store, which, if she did break down, she would have went inside. And then if she did break down and it was closed, she would have honestly just slept in the car. At least I would have just slept in the car until they opened. That way I could get them to help me figure out what's going on. Now, the third theory is perhaps the most concerning theory. It's that something more sinister happened to Emily. While police have stated that they do not currently suspect foul play, the circumstances of her disappearance are highly suspicious. The fact that her car was found far from her home and that she hasn't contacted her family or friends has led many to fear the worst. Without evidence to confirm or deny any of these theories, we are left with more questions than answers. Emily's disappearance has devastated her family. They have been incredibly vocal about their heartbreak, using social media to raise awareness about her case and to call on anyone with any information to come forward. Her family has shared photos, personal stories, and pleas for help in the hopes that someone somewhere knows something that could help bring Emily home. Despite the lack of developments in the investigation, Emily's family remains determined not to give up. For them, Emily's life matters. Whether she left voluntarily or something more sinister happened, they believe someone out there has the answers that they so desperately need and deserve. Emily's case is a strong reminder of the emotional toll that missing persons cases have on their families and friends. The pain of not knowing where a loved one is or what had happened to them is just overwhelming. Time becomes the enemy in cases like this. As the days turn into weeks and the weeks turn into months, the trail grows colder and colder and colder, making it extremely hard to find answers. This is why it's crucial to keep Emily's story alive. In today's world, social media is a very powerful tool in bringing attention to cold cases. Every share, every post, every mention can help keep the case in the public eye. And sometimes the smallest tip can lead to a breakthrough. The Culpeper Police Department is still actively investigating Emily's disappearance, and they continue to ask for public assistance. If you have any information, no matter how small, no matter if you think it won't matter at all, it will. If you have any information, please contact Detective Barron at 540-727-3430, extension 5530. You can also submit an anonymous tip at 540-727-0300. You can help by sharing Emily's story on social media. Awareness is a crucial factor in many cases like this one and more. Keeping her name in the spotlight may be the key to bringing her home. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to thank you so much for listening and for keeping Emily's story in your hearts. Emily Victoria Benjamin is more than just a missing person. She's a daughter, a sister, a friend. Her family continues to hold out hope that she will be found, and with your help, we can bring attention to cases like hers and hopefully bring her home. Together, we can continue to shed light on the stories of those who have disappeared. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay informed, and let's keep fighting for justice. Join me next time as we continue to explore the stories of those who have disappeared. I am on Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook, so please follow, like, share, and let's keep passing the word along. And remember, if you see something, say something, and more importantly, do something.